Hey. Time for another unbelievable story. They say you should always trust your gut feeling, but what do you do when your gut tells you that your husband's urgent business trip has absolutely nothing to do with work? Today, you'll find out about a woman who decided to stop guessing and check it for herself, right at the airport boarding gate.
I still remember the exact moment I started trusting my husband completely, and the exact moment that trust began to crack. We had been married for a little over 3 years. On paper, we looked stable, the kind of couple people envy. He had a good job in logistics, always busy, always traveling for work. And I was the wife who stayed home most evenings, waiting for him to come back with tired eyes and stories about meetings, deadlines, airports. I used to believe every word. The first few times he went on work trips, I even helped him pack, ironed his shirts, made sure his chargers were in the right bag, kissed him goodbye at the door like everything was normal. He would always smile at me in that calm way and say, "I'll call you when I land." And he did, almost every time. That's why I never questioned anything. But lately, something started to feel different. It wasn't obvious at first, just small things that didn't make sense when you put them together, like how he started checking his phone more often when he was at home, even during dinner, or how he'd step out to take calls, even when the room was quiet, and before every trip, he'd get distant. Not emotionally cold exactly, just slightly unreachable, like his mind was already somewhere else. I told myself it was stress, work pressure. Maybe I was just overthinking because I missed him too much when he was gone. That night before one of his trips, I remember sitting on the bed while he packed. The suitcase was open on the floor, clothes neatly folded inside. He was acting normal, humming something under his breath. Then his phone buzzed. He looked at it, and for half a second his entire expression changed. It was fast, so fast that if I hadn't been watching him, I would have missed it completely. His jaw tightened. His thumb moved quickly to flip the phone face down. "Who was that?" I asked casually. "Work," he said immediately, without looking at me. But something about the way he said it felt rehearsed. I didn't push it. I hated conflict, and I trusted him too much to question him over something so small. He finished packing, kissed me goodbye, and left early the next morning. The house felt too quiet after he was gone. I tried to distract myself, cleaning, cooking, scrolling on my phone, but my mind kept going back to that moment, the expression on his face, the quick movement of his hand. Then later that night, I decided to use his laptop. I needed to check something simple, a shared document for bills we managed together. He usually never logged out, but when I opened it, a notification popped up in the corner. Just a preview, a message, and the name attached to it wasn't anyone from his work. I stared at that notification longer than I should have. It was just a small pop-up in the corner of his laptop screen, something that would normally disappear in a few seconds. But my eyes didn't move. My hand didn't move either. The name wasn't anyone I recognized from his job. Not a colleague, not a manager, not even a department name I had ever heard him mention. Just a personal name, and the message preview. It wasn't professional at all. It was short. Too short. Something like, "Are you still coming tonight?" My stomach tightened instantly. I told myself there had to be an explanation. Maybe it was a friend. Maybe I was misunderstanding the context. Maybe it was some kind of work joke I didn't get. But even as I thought that, my fingers were already moving. I clicked. The chat opened for a split second before I could even prepare myself. And in that split second, I saw enough to feel my entire body go cold. Messages. Not one. Not two. A long thread. Late-night conversations. Plans. Hotel mentions. Small, affectionate lines that didn't belong in any normal professional interaction. I closed it immediately. My heart was beating so loudly, it felt like it was inside my ears. I just sat there, staring at the screen, trying to convince myself I didn't see what I just saw. Maybe I misunderstood it. Maybe I read it wrong. Maybe I was tired. But deep down, something inside me had already shifted, that safe feeling I always had about my marriage. It didn't feel safe anymore. I didn't confront him when he called that night. I answered like nothing had happened. I even laughed at something he said, pretending my voice wasn't shaking. He told me about his flight, the hotel, the important meetings he had lined up, and I listened. But for the first time, I wasn't just listening to him. I was watching for lies. After the call ended, I couldn't sleep. I kept replaying that message over and over in my head, the tone, the timing, the way it didn't fit into the life I thought we had. Around 2 a.m., I went back to the laptop. My hands were colder now, slower, like my body didn't want me to do it, but I couldn't stop myself. I opened the browser history. At first it looked normal. Work emails, logistics sites, maps, travel bookings. Then I saw it, a hotel reservation site. My breath caught before I even clicked it. The booking was for a city he had just told me he was traveling to, but something about it made my stomach drop even harder. Because the check-in date wasn't matching his story. He said he was leaving tomorrow morning, but the hotel booking showed he had already reserved the room. For tonight. I kept staring at that booking page, waiting for it to somehow change if I looked at it long enough. It didn't. The date stayed the same. The city stayed the same. The reservation stayed exactly where it was, like it had no intention of helping me feel better. My first instinct was still denial. There had to be a reason. Maybe he booked it early and forgot. Maybe work changed plans. Maybe this was all just a misunderstanding that would make sense if I had the full picture. But the problem was, nothing about it felt accidental. I leaned back in the chair, my hands shaking slightly, trying to piece together a version of him that still made sense. The husband I knew didn't lie. He didn't hide things. He didn't have secret hotel bookings or mysterious messages popping up at night. And yet, here it was. Real. Undeniable. The next morning, I couldn't act normal. I tried, but it didn't work. Every time I looked at him, I felt like I was seeing two versions of the same person. The man eating breakfast across from me, and the man secretly booking hotel rooms at night. He noticed something was off. "You're quiet today," he said, sipping his coffee. "Just tired," I answered too quickly. He studied me for a second, like he was trying to decide if that was true or not. Then nodded. "I'll be gone for 3 days. Same schedule as I told you." Same schedule. That phrase stuck in my head, because I hadn't even told him I was suspicious, and yet he felt the need to repeat himself. After he left for work, I didn't wait even an hour. I opened everything again. Laptop, email previews, browser history. This time I wasn't just looking randomly. I was searching for patterns, and I found one. Every trip he took followed the same structure. Same days of the week, same type of hotel bookings, same timing of late-night activity. It wasn't random. It was organized, like a second routine existed alongside the life I knew. My chest felt tight the longer I looked at it. Then I noticed something else, a repeated number. It appeared in calls, in message logs I could partially see, in app notifications I couldn't fully open. Not saved under a name I recognized, just a number. But it kept appearing too often to be coincidence. I hesitated for a long time before doing it, but eventually I typed the number into social media search. My finger hovered over the enter key for a few seconds, and when I finally pressed it, I didn't expect much. Maybe nothing would show up. Maybe it was a dead end. Maybe I was just spiraling. Instead, a profile appeared. No name I recognized. But the profile picture, that's when my stomach dropped completely, because behind her in that photo, I saw a place I knew he had never been. My first instinct was to zoom in so far that the image almost broke apart. I needed to be wrong. I needed that background to be something generic, something common, something that could exist in 100 different cities. But it wasn't. It was too specific. A small cafe terrace near a waterfront, a distinct railing, a line of trees that I had seen before in travel brochures he casually left on the kitchen counter months ago, pretending not to care about them. And I remembered him saying, almost offhandedly, "That place is overrated. I've never been there." Never been there. That was the exact phrase. My throat tightened. I clicked on the profile again, scrolling slowly now, as if speed could somehow change what I was seeing. The account wasn't very active. A few photos, a few tagged posts, nothing that looked dramatic at first glance. But when you start looking at something with suspicion, even the smallest details start feeling loud, and I noticed her presence everywhere. Not directly at first. No obvious captions, no declarations. Just fragments, reflections, backgrounds, table settings, hands in frame that weren't always hers alone. And then I saw it. A tagged location on one of the posts. The same city he claimed was only about conference halls and work meetings. But her photos showed something else entirely. Restaurants, walks by the water, nights out that didn't look like business dinners. My mind tried to fight it. Maybe he had been there for work and never mentioned the personal side. Maybe this was unrelated. Maybe I was connecting dots that didn't belong together. But deep down, I already knew. It wasn't random. It was overlapping. Two lives existing in the same timeline, just not both with me in it. I sat on the edge of the bed without realizing I had moved from the chair. My phone was still in my hand, screen burning into my eyes, but I couldn't stop looking. Then something made my breathing stop again. A comment thread under one of her older photos. Short, casual, almost meaningless, but one reply stood out. A name, or what looked like a nickname, something familiar. Something I had seen before in my own home. My hands went cold as I opened our shared contacts list on instinct. I scrolled slowly, and there it was. Not saved under a woman's name. Not saved under anything normal. Just a nickname. And next to it, a small heart emoji. I felt like the room tilted slightly, because that wasn't just a number anymore. That was a connection. A repeated presence in his calls, his trips, his hidden activity, now tied directly to a person I could almost see. I stared at it for a long time, trying to force my mind to stop jumping to conclusions. But the conclusions were already there. They were just waiting for me to admit them. I put the phone down, but my hands were still shaking. And for the first time since this started, I didn't feel confused anymore. I felt certain. And that certainty scared me more than anything else, because now I knew I wasn't dealing with a coincidence. I was dealing with something that had been happening for a long time, without me seeing it. And I had no idea how deep it actually went. I didn't sleep that night. I just lay there, staring at the ceiling, replaying everything in my head like a loop I couldn't shut off. The messages, the hotel bookings, the profile, the nickname with the heart emoji. Every time I thought I had reached the worst part, something else appeared and pulled me deeper. And the scariest part wasn't even the evidence anymore. It was how easily it all started to connect. Like I had been living next to a second life this entire time, and only now the curtain was finally being pulled back. When morning came, I felt strange. Not emotional in the way I expected. Not crying, not breaking down, just quiet, like something inside me had switched from denial to observation. He was still asleep when I got up. Calm, relaxed, the same man I had shared a bed with for years. I watched him for a moment, trying to find any sign on his face that matched the version of him I was discovering. There was nothing. That almost made it worse. When he woke up, he acted completely normal. Early meeting today, he mumbled, checking his phone. Again? I asked, trying to keep my voice steady. He nodded. Busy week. Busy week. I almost laughed, but it came out stuck in my throat, because I already knew what his busy week probably looked like. Same pattern, same structure, same hidden life running parallel to mine. After he left, I made a decision. I couldn't keep guessing. I couldn't keep scrolling through fragments and half-truths. I needed something real, something undeniable. So I started focusing on the next trip. If everything I found was correct, then the next time he left for a work trip, I wouldn't just be sitting at home wondering. I would follow. The idea hit me harder than I expected. For a moment, I even hesitated. This wasn't like me. I wasn't someone who followed people, who investigated, who invaded privacy. But then I remembered the hotel booking, the messages, the nickname, and the hesitation disappeared. The next few days, I acted normal, almost too normal. I smiled when he spoke. I asked him about his work. I even helped him pack again, like I used to. And he had no idea that I wasn't packing for a husband anymore. I was preparing for answers. The day before his next trip, I noticed something new. He was more careful now, more attentive with his phone, more aware of where I was in the room, like something in him had shifted too, like he could feel the change in me even if he didn't understand it. At night, he stepped outside to take a call. I didn't move, but this time I listened through the slightly open door. His voice was lower than usual, faster. Not the calm, work tone he used with clients. It sounded different, more personal. And just before he ended the call, I heard something that made my chest tighten instantly. He said her name, not loudly, not clearly, but enough. Enough for everything I'd been holding together to finally crack just a little more. And in that moment, I knew. The next trip wouldn't just be another suspicion. It would be the moment I finally saw everything for myself. The night before his trip felt different in a way I can't fully explain. Everything looked normal on the surface. He was packing, checking his schedule, scrolling through emails like any other time. But I wasn't watching his actions anymore. I was watching him. Every movement felt slightly rehearsed now, like I was finally seeing the pattern behind something I had once believed was spontaneous. He closed his suitcase and looked at me. "You okay?" he asked casually. "Yeah," I said. "Just thinking." He nodded like that was enough, like he didn't need to dig deeper. But I noticed something new this time. He wasn't as relaxed around me anymore. Not guilty exactly, just aware. Like he could feel that something between us had shifted, even if he didn't know what. The next morning he left early. Same routine, same kiss on the cheek, same "I'll call you when I land." But this time I didn't wait for the house to go quiet before moving. I was already ready. I had packed a small bag the night before, without fully admitting to myself why. I told myself it was just precaution, just curiosity, just needing closure. But deep down, I knew what it was. It was the moment I stopped being the wife waiting at home and started becoming the one who follows. I waited until he was far enough ahead of me. Then I took a rideshare to the station. Every minute felt heavier than the last. My heart wasn't racing like in movies. It was slow, controlled, almost numb. Like my body had decided emotions were too dangerous to process right now. At the airport, I kept my distance. I saw him check in. I saw him standing in line. And then I saw her. At first, I wasn't even sure it was her, just a woman standing slightly away, casually checking her phone. But something in my chest reacted before my mind fully understood. That feeling you get when your body recognizes truth before your thoughts accept it. She wasn't dressed dramatically, no scene, no attention drawn to herself, but she moved like someone who belonged there, like this wasn't new. And then he looked up, and his posture changed instantly, Not surprise, not shock. Recognition. My fingers tightened around my bag strap. I stayed back, far enough that they didn't notice me, close enough that I could see everything. They didn't rush. They didn't hesitate. They walked together. Not like strangers, not like colleagues, like something familiar. My chest went completely tight as I followed them from a distance, heart pounding harder now than it had this entire time. They stopped near a quieter section of the terminal. I ducked behind a pillar, barely breathing. And then it happened. She touched his arm, not casually, not by accident. Familiar, comfortable. And he didn't move away. That was the moment something inside me finally broke. Because no matter how many messages I saw, no matter how many bookings I found, nothing compared to seeing it with my own eyes. I waited until they started moving again before I followed, step by step, trying not to be seen. And that's when she suddenly stopped walking, right in the middle of the terminal. She turned slightly, like she felt something, like she knew. And for a split second, I thought she had seen me. But instead she leaned closer to him and said something I couldn't hear. And then he looked up, straight in my direction. I froze behind the pillar. For a second, I was sure he had seen me. My entire body went rigid, like even breathing would give me away. The noise of the airport faded into something distant and hollow, like I was underwater watching everything happen in slow motion. But then his eyes didn't stay on me. They moved past, just slightly, like he was looking through the space I was standing in, not at me. And that's when I realized something worse. He wasn't looking at me. He was just aware. Aware that something wasn't right in the environment around him. She touched his arm again, gently this time, pulling his attention back. And just like that, he turned away from my direction completely. They started walking toward the gate. I hesitated. Every instinct in me was screaming to stop, to leave, to go home before I saw anything else that would destroy what was left. But I couldn't. Not anymore. I followed them at a distance until they reached a quieter waiting area near the boarding gate. There were fewer people here, which made every detail sharper, every movement louder in my head. He checked his phone. She said something that made him exhale, almost like a laugh. Not forced, not professional. Real. My chest tightened painfully. I didn't even realize I was moving closer until I was only a few meters away, hidden behind another row of seats, and then I heard her voice clearly for the first time. Not loud, calm, familiar in a way that made my stomach drop even before I understood why. "I told you she wouldn't suspect anything," she said softly. My breath stopped. She continued, still looking at him. "She trusts you too much." For a moment, I thought I misheard it. My brain tried to rewrite it into something harmless, something normal, something I could survive hearing. But then he replied, and everything collapsed. "Just a little longer," he said. "After this trip, we'll figure everything out." We'll figure everything out. Not me and her, not us at home. My vision blurred instantly. The truth wasn't hiding anymore. It wasn't hidden messages. It wasn't hotel bookings. It wasn't even secret calls. It was right here, standing in front of me, living it openly while I had been at home, building a life alone. My hand shook as I stepped slightly forward without thinking. A floorboard creaked. Both of them stopped instantly. The silence that followed felt like it stretched forever. She turned her head first, slowly, and when her eyes met mine, there was no confusion, no surprise, just recognition, like she had been expecting this moment too.